up to? We are...
I have at the end of blessings, but I don't know if we finished the blessings.
We did not finish the blessing.
We started and you handed us the book.
That's all I got. Okay, great, thank you. That's great. Blessing after before you go play together. Let's do that one more time, and let's actually use prayer books. We'll use prayer books also because we're going to review what we did last time, and we're going to do additional blessings. Actually, it's all over one.
These guys?
Yep.
Great.
I had stuff all over my, it's all over my nightstand, so I just grabbed what I could and ran out the door.
One would think a pen would be appropriate, but I forgot that. Thank you.
You got one?
Yes. I mean, if that's in better condition, I'll trade mine. I'm kidding.
You trade it. I said you could keep it, right? So
You know, let's look at
nice
the
one.
condition.
Nice one, nice one, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, secret notes in there. There we go. That one was a little beat up. Thanks. In a good way.
It was used.
There you go.
These are often given out at weddings, right? Because people are saying blessings before and after eating at
Okay.
weddings. The big banquet, right?
Yeah.
So
That's where all the, okay, yeah, so all of them have a reminiscence,
if they're used,
remnants of food.
if they're used,
Right.
you want to brand this one's brand. This is pretty new condition one. That one. This looks like it's never been used. So. All right, let's go. Let's just look at. Let's go to blessing. Let's go to page 59. Okay. 59. This begins the elaborate grace after meals. You would say this after any meal that contains bread. And if it's Shabbat or Yom Tov, it's a holiday. You start with reciting this passage from Psalms. Right, that's paragraph 1. Paragraph 2 on page 60. This is if there are a group of 3 who eat together. 3 men or 3 women, they can formally invite each other to engage in this ritual and in this mitzvah. That's paragraph 2. Paragraph 3 is the first blessing of Birkat Hamazon, the first blessing of grace after meals. It's a blessing focusing on basic sustenance. Okay, you'll see this version has the translation underneath, right? It has the transliterations if you don't read Hebrew yet, and then beneath it has the translation. Okay, Hazanah are called feeding everything, basic sustenance. Paragraph 4 speaks of the land of Israel, which for the Jewish people is the ultimate or essential source of our sustenance. We were given a land to farm and to sustain ourselves from that. Paragraph 5 is a special edition on Hanukkah or on Purim. On special days, one of the ways that we mark the days as being special is we add extra prayers, just like we do in our daily prayers are different on Shabbat, different, right? We add paragraphs and take away paragraphs. So on Hanukkah and Purim, we add paragraph 5 and paragraph 6. All days we continue on paragraph 7, which is really the conclusion of that second section, the bit about it includes Birkat Hashem al Aretz v'Hamaz on the land and on the food we get from the land. Okay, that's that second great theme. Paragraph 8 begins the next blessing. This blessing speaks about Jerusalem and the lack of Jerusalem. We sort of recall Jerusalem at all of our festive events. Whenever we gather to eat, we cannot but think about the Jerusalem and the destruction of Jerusalem in ancient times and the enduring lack that we feel in the Jewish world and in the universe more broadly. Into this blessing we add additions for Shabbat and Yom Tov, paragraph 9 and paragraph 10. Shabbat and Yom Tov, Rosh Chodesh, the first of the month, we add paragraph 9 and paragraph 10 as is appropriate in the middle of this blessing. Paragraph 11 is the conclusion of that blessing for Jerusalem, where we blessed is God who builds Jerusalem. This was actually where Birkat Hamazon ended once upon a time, but paragraph 12 was added later on by the rabbis, which speaks about God's goodness. The story actually is after the destruction of the Jewish city of Beitar during a rebellion against the Romans led by Bar Kokhba. That despite this destruction, that we were able to bury our dead, and so the rabbis added this blessing that we should thank God for goodness even in really hard times, and that's paragraph 12. After paragraph 12, paragraph 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, these are all kind of extra things that were really not essentially part of Birkat Hamazon. If you're pressed for time, you could end at the end of it, you could finish paragraph 12 and be done. But the custom is to say 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, all those other paragraphs, with some special additions for special days and things that guests say, people eating at their parents' house, they add as is indicated. Okay, this is the formal grace after meals. It takes a while to eat. And to say this, but this is only a meal with bread. Okay, a meal with bread is just say one blessing at the end of it, and that's to cover all of those, everything you eat at that meal. In this way, we really elevate our eating, okay, in a very special way. Okay, everyone, animals eat. Okay, all animals eat to survive. That's a very basic biological function that we share with, dogs and cats and snails. Okay, and everything eats. Okay. Already in ancient times, there were efforts undertaken by various people and various, peoples and nations and cultures to elevate eating and beyond something that we share with animals. So one way to do that is through cuisine, in which case we're not just expressing like some part of our animalistic capacity, but we're also connecting to culture, and we're delighting our senses, and we're being creative with the artistry of culinary arts. Okay, that's like one way to elevate eating. Another way to elevate eating is through etiquette. You use a knife and fork, and you use a napkin, and you sit down, and the host eats first, and whatever. That's also a way to elevate, to inject human culture into this basic animalistic act of eating. Birkat Hamazon and blessing before and after is really a way to take our eating and elevate it to something very sacred and very spiritual. That every effort to eat, we're connecting to remembering God, who's the source of this food that we're eating, and our connection to Jewish history and the land of Israel, which was for the Jewish people the source of our sustenance, and we are thankful for all the goodness, right? I think we talked about this with, who was I discussing this with? Not yet. One of the children of the community had a little conversation. The word in Hebrew for thanks is the same as the same root as the word to admit and to concede. Okay? When you're grateful, you're admitting that somebody else does something good for you. So like, being grateful makes you happy, because to be grateful requires acknowledging that somebody else or something else that did something good for you. You're the beneficiary of somebody else's beneficial, beneficent intervention, and that can make you happy. Okay, so that's also in here. Okay, and our tables then become a very sacred space. We're not just Jewish in the synagogue. We are also serving God and engaging in a very sophisticated, profound form of spiritual activity. Also when we eat. Okay, as we eat kosher food wherever we are, we take blessing before and after we eat. And our tables, right? We sit around the table and recite these prayers. That's a very important, that turns our meals into a religious act. So certainly on Shabbat and the holidays, our holiday meals are significant acts of like religious devotion, in addition to being family time, community time, and good food. It's also and time for hospitality, including the poor in our meals, etc., and the strangers and the people who are lonely. We include them into our meals, etc., etc. But also, we're engaging in a really profound religious act by reciting these words. Okay. Page 77. And if the prayer, because okay. Page 76 is a blessing at the end for wine, because sometimes you can recite this grace after meals while holding a cup of wine, then you would say another blessing and then drink the wine afterwards. That's less common, but you may see that, so it's page 76. Page 77 is what the after bracha, the after blessing for a meal. It doesn't contain bread, okay? So it's actually this week's Torah portion. If you come to Shul Shabbat, we actually read it also Thursday morning. This week's Torah portion contains the list of the 7 special species that the land of Israel is praised, for which the land of Israel is praised. So wheat and barley and grapes and olives and honey, or date honey really, so dates and figs and, how many is that? Pomegranate. Is that 7? Should be 7. 7 species. Okay, that's right here. Olives, dates, grapes, figs, or pomegranates, or one of the grains, wheat, barley, spelt, oats, or rye. Of course, so grains, and then olives, dates, grapes, figs, or pomegranates, but it's not bread. Okay, so this would be a cookie or some pasta or some fruit. If it's the right kind of fruit, you would say this blessing. So it's a lot of the same themes as the full grace after meals, but it's much shorter. It starts at page 77, goes to the top of page 80. But you'll see it's like lots of different options. So for wine, you see it's like choose your own adventure. You start off the same, and then for grain products, for fruit, for wine, you say the appropriate line there, and then you continue. Okay, so you it's much shorter. It's like a paragraph. And this would be for like, whatever. You have a cookie. You have some olives. Okay, that's what you would say. Any other food you eat, which would be cheese, or some meat, or a cup of tea, or a glass of water, or different kind of fruit, a melon, or some cucumbers, or lettuce, or a banana. Okay? The blessing you say at the end would be Berena Fishat, which is this short blessing on the bottom of page 80. After food or drink, not requiring either a blessing after the meal or a blessing after the snack. Okay? So it's like everything else that doesn't fall into one of the two categories. It's not bread, so you don't say the grace after meals. And it's not a special meal containing one of the species that the land of Israel is praised for producing. So you don't say that Al-Hamichya blessing. So everything else falls into this third category. See, in ancient times, bread was like a major staple. Okay? Bread is what, it was like the silverware and the plate and the main staple. Okay? So it was your carbohydrate at your meals, your main, and then it was also like your plate and your first. So you just they'd have like a thing of like whatever the dish was, some meat or some beans or whatever, some like cooked food, and then you have bread, and you would just use the bread to dip into the cooked food, and that's what people ate. So the bread was like a much more, in terms of the component proportion of calories was significant, and also it was like how you ate. Okay, so a meal with bread, like the bread is really an important part of the meal. Bread now, you have a little slice of bread, a little bite of bread, maybe it's less significant, but the law still is as I've described. A meal with bread gets the grace after, full grace after meals. Any other meal gets the shorter Berena Fishat, that one sentence blessing. And in between is a meal that was based on one of the special fruits and vegetables the land of Israel is praised for bread. Okay, page 81, the special additions that we say after a wedding meal. Page 85, it's a circumcision feast, we say some additions, it's a little bit different. Okay, go to page 91. These are all some other blessings, okay? Before you eat things, before you eat food, you have to say blessings. So they all start, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, you are blessed, Lord our God, the sovereign of the world. That's what makes it a blessing. It has that formula. That's like the building block of Jewish liturgy, the blessing. So they all start the same. And for bread, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. For cookies, cakes, and cereals, borei minei mizunot. For fruit that grows on trees, borei pri eitz. For fruits and vegetables that grow on the ground, borei pri adamah. For wine, borei pri agafen. Okay, for everything else, meat, cheese, tea, soda, shakoni b'vara. So these are blessings on enjoying the world. Okay, we're not allowed to enjoy the world without saying a blessing before. So the blessings before are much shorter. The blessings after are a little bit more elaborate. It's also this week's chart portion, the obligation to thank God, to recite grace after meals. You see there's a blessing here for using the bathroom, okay? It's a little bit euphemism, using the toilet, okay, right? There's a blessing for there's a blessing for that. It speaks to that, right? Blessed, again, it all starts Baruch atah Hashem. We start on page 91 at the beginning. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. They all start that same formula, and then Asher yatzar et Adam, who's fashioned the human being in great wisdom, and created us all sorts of orifices and organs and channels and places, things, right? Everything has to go and work perfectly, and things that are open have to be open, and things that are closed have to be closed. And if anything was not right like that, we wouldn't be able to endure even one moment. Which is true, right? If, God forbid, you've ever known somebody, or you yourself have been in a situation where using the toilet is not so simple, let alone breathing and everything else that we do, right? It's a serious problem. And, right, so we use the toilet, we say a blessing, expressing our thanks or gratitude that we were able to do so, and everything worked the way it was supposed to work, okay? So in this way, again, throughout life, there are moments in life that we're reminded to think about the spiritual, that we're connecting also the physical and the spiritual, like we very, very animalistic function, right? There's the children's book we have at home called, I think it's called like Everybody Poops or something, and it's like fish and birds and cows, whatever, it's like all these pictures of animals, whatever, so, okay? But we can say a blessing, okay? Again, that's also, like, in other words, even the ancient Greeks were embarrassed by the way in which human beings are so physical, and we're just like animals, so they etiquette, and this, whatever, all etiquette around eating, some etiquette around using the toilet, it's like, okay, but it's just about etiquette, it's also about, like, the religious, okay? Giving it a really, like, our bodies were designed by God, and we're grateful that, that they're working properly, we're able to do what we have to do. These blessings eventually, if you say them every time they're appropriate, you'll eventually, you'll eventually come to memorize them or whatever. You can take one of these and stick it in your pocket and take it out when appropriate, and eventually you'll learn it. There's the advantage of learning it is that you know it really well, but you're very welcome. But it's something nice about not knowing it by heart, because then you say it with much more intensity. I just saw today somebody provided a statistic of how fast people speak. in various, like audiobooks is like 150, I don't know if I'm this number, 150 words per minute in a audiobook. And an auctioneer can do maybe 200, 250 words per minute. Okay? So based on that word count, that pace, when you're reciting prayers, how long should it take to recite your daily prayers, based on that pace? If you would do like an auctioneer, then maybe you can do it in like 25 minutes, you're more, but if you do it, but you're actually saying it the way you would a deep conversation where you pause and you think about the words you say, and before you say them sometimes, then maybe it should take you much longer, right? So it's very interesting. So I took like the word count of the prayer book and then applied it to these like rates of speech. It was really interesting to see. I told you about the scene in the movie, the blessing over the pickle. There's a scene, it's an Israeli movie from 20 years ago called, in English, it was called Time of Favors. Very good movie. The director, actually, he's produced a lot of very well-regarded Israeli, I think, Israeli films. This one, there's a scene where somebody goes into a character who picks up a pickle and says a blessing and eats it, as religious Jews would do before eating a pickle, right? They say, the blessing of the pickle would be on page, just since we're talking about it, okay? On page 91, okay? Fruits and vegetables that grow on the ground, okay, page 91. So the actor, though, wasn't religious, so he had never done this before, and so he, thought this would be this should be a moment of great religious devotion. So he took the pickle and he contemplated the pickle and he said the blessing and he ate the pickle. And the direction, no. You have to say this as though you've been saying this your entire life in a really casual way, without and took him many, they had to reshoot the scene many takes before he could pick up the pickle, say the blessing, and eat it in a certain casual way, as though he had been saying his whole life, which is, to make the film authentic, he had to do that. But it's a little bit sad that, those of us who say blessings all the time become so rote and routine. And it should be a moment of introspection, and that's the point. Before you enjoy anything from the world, eating anything, right, you should express your gratitude that God, created this world that we are able to enjoy, not just, and sustain ourselves. Again, we're not just animals, okay, that who eat to survive, that we're also expressing gratitude before doing it. Okay. Page 93 introduces a whole other set of blessings. These are blessings for mitzvah, okay? The first category of blessings were blessings for enjoyment. Blessings you say before enjoying anything of the world, okay? These next category of blessings are blessings for mitzvah. Before doing mitzvah, we say blessings. Very important one here, the very first one. So they all start with this formula, Asher Kiddushanu Mitzvotav V'Tzivan, who sanctified us with his commandments, and commanded us to, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so before many mitzvot, we say these blessings. Again, this is the Rabbi's way that we should do mitzvah, perform religious commandments with intention and focus and devotion, not do them as rote. Okay, that it should be something meaningful that connects us back to God, that we're aware and we inculcate that awareness that we're doing this mitzvah not by rote but to serve God. So, relevant to our discussion on meals is the very first one, Al Netilat Yadayim. That's the blessing for washing your hands. Any meal with bread, we should wash our hands before. So the real order of a meal is a meal with bread, like a Shabbat meal or a holiday meal or any meal during the week, having a sandwich for lunch at your desk, you wash your hands. To wash your hands, you use a cup to wash your hands, so that's the way it was done. Temple times, you wash it 1, 2, sometimes 3 on one hand, then 1, 2, sometimes 3 on the other hand. And as you dry your hands, you say the blessing. Asher Kiddushanu Mitzvotav V'Tzivanu Al Netilat Yadayim, as it's on top of page 93. And then we don't talk until we say the blessing over the bread, which we saw earlier was Hamotzi Lechem Min Haaretz, blessing for bread. Then you can have that if you have a meal with bread, that blessing covers all the foods you eat with that meal. If it's not a meal with bread, then you have to say a different blessing for each of the various foods you eat. Okay? If any of you end up pursuing a conversion with the CRC, there's lots and lots of questions about blessings. They give you lots of something they care a lot about, which is as they should, but they lots of. Let's say you're served this, and this. Which blessing do you say? How many? And the way to learn that is just by carrying one of these around with you and looking it up before you eat things. Okay, and you can actually apps you can get on your phone, which you can put in any particular food, and it'll tell you what the right blessing is before and after. It's not always so simple. Look down the page. I'm putting up a mezuzah. The mezuzah goes in the doors of your home. Again, same formula. It's a mitzvah blessing. Asher Kiddushanu Mitzvotav V'Tzivanu Likboa Mezuzah, to put up a mezuzah. Okay, that's the so many mitzvah have blessings before. Again, as a way to give some intention to what we do. There are some exceptions. Not Am I going through the show? Thank you so much. We have 5 minutes, we'll be done. Did I say good morning? Even? It's an afternoon. Hopefully I said this out right.
Morning for some.
That's fine. That's fine. What was I saying? Mitzvah, we say, okay, mitzvah blessings. So we saw benefit blessings before eating and after eating, after using the toilet. There are mitzvah blessings before doing mitzvah, like washing your hands before a meal with bread, like putting up a mezuzah, like many other mitzvah have blessings associated with them. Mitzvah of interpersonal mitzvah generally don't have blessings associated with them. That's an interesting question. Why? Giving charity, being kind to your parents, there's no blessing associated with those mitzvah. One reason is that somebody's hungry and they want some help, and you say, oh, I'll give you some food, I'll give you some money. When you first say the blessing, that's like not so nice. Like the person's waiting for your help. If your parent needs some assistance, you say, okay, I'm so happy to help you, Mom. And they say a blessing, it's like, okay, like what I really need is your assistance. Where it comes to a ritual mitzvah, we need that reminder to connect us that this is an act of religious devotion, not rote that we're doing, and God can wait the extra 2 seconds for us to say the blessing. Okay. Page 94, there's a third category of blessing, and these are blessings of Sheva, blessings of praise that we recite if you see lightning, you see a rainbow, you see the ocean for the first time in 30 days, you see fruit trees blossoming in the spring, in the month of Nisan, a especially beautiful person or animal or plant, standing scholar, I see a king, whatever. All these blessings that are really remarkable, and so things that you encounter in the world that arouse your praise of God, you would say these blessings. So 3 categories of blessing are the foundation, and we also have them in the Siddur as well. They mostly still fit into these 3 categories: blessings of benefit, blessings of mitzvah and of mitzvah observance, and then blessings before mitzvah, and then blessings of praise when you observe or experience some of these natural phenomena. Those are blessings. I think that's Roman numeral 6. Roman numeral 7, laws of Nida, I don't really cover in this class. If you want to study Hilchot Nida, my wife teaches a class she teaches these classes generally in the spring after Passover. She teaches a group class. You're welcome to study with her. There are books there. And Roman numeral 8, we will try to cover in the next class. The next class, when will it be? Let's see. This is going to be hard. Things are getting busy. What's going on? Next Monday the 26th. Next Monday the 26th. We could do like, if we do 6:30, could you be here that early? Is that too, you'll be here at 6:30?
Are you saying August 26th?
August 26th.
We'll be out of town.
We'll be out of town. Would it be better?
That's why I haven't been here the past 3 times. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, because otherwise Labor Day, and then we could do the 9th. We'll do the 9th of September. Around?
Yeah, we're always around.
Let's do the 9th of September. It'll be the last class of this cycle, and hopefully we'll finish things up. And then after the holidays, we'll start the cycle again. Okay? So we'll do a little bit later. We'll meet after Mincha Maariv on the 9th, which will be approximately, I don't know what time it will be. It'll be probably around, look in the bulletin, it'll probably be around, we'll probably start around 7:45. Okay? On September 9th. All right, you're welcome to stay for Mincha and Maariv if you're able to stay, and thank you for coming. And so it's a little truncated class, but thank you for coming over.
Thank you.
All right.